Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Skywatcher What's Up Webcast. We cover everything from what's up in the nighttime sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. And of course, at the end of the month, we have a special guest to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. Now, anyway, I hope you had a safe 4th of July for those of you here in the US. And for those of you who weren't here, I hope you had a safe week and a good weekend. We're about to go into our another weekend here. So, and that means it is, of course, Friday. So we are going to be jumping into this week's episode, which is astronomy apps. Now, I know all of us at some point use our, smart devices, our tablets, whatever. It's kind of the way the world works now, is we use these devices for a variety of things. And these are just going to be some of the applications that I've used. Now, there is a caveat I would like to say. There are thousands of apps out there for astronomy and pretty much everything. And if we don't cover a certain app, that doesn't mean it's not good. It just doesn't mean we put it in there. So I'm sure there's some things that we probably missed. But I tried to cover as many of them as possible. And hopefully some of them are useful for you. And maybe you're probably familiar with a lot of them, but hopefully if you're new or looking for something, hopefully this is of use to you at some point. And of course, if you're watching this in the future, I'm sure there are new versions of these that will be out and even new and better apps coming out as well. Before we do jump into that, if you like what you see here at the What's Up Webcast, please go ahead and subscribe. It lets us know we're doing a good job. Leave a like on a video, and that lets us know we should keep doing this. It is a lot of work to do the What's Up Webcast. It takes a lot of prep time, and especially when we're scheduling things out, it takes time from our team away from the day-to-day to make this happen. But we like doing it, and we like having the information here for you guys to see. So let us know we're doing a good job by leaving a like, subscribe if you haven't. If you have any ideas for a future episode, please email us at info@skywatcherusa.com and title it What's Up, and we will try to get your idea into the queue for a future episode. Now, apps. Like I said before, we use apps all the time. We all, pretty much most of us, have some kind of smart device, and we have applications for all kinds of things. And astronomy is no different. Now, in astronomy, there's a lot of different ones out there. Some of these you might not even think about. Actually, come to think about it, I'm thinking about one that I should have put in here, and it's not an astronomy app, but I will bring it up anyway. But we're going to break this up into sections. So there's 3 sections, and the first one is functional apps. I couldn't figure out a better term for these, so this is what you got. Now, to me, a functional app is a non-planetarium app, not something you look up in the nighttime sky and find constellations and stuff like that. It's something that's either used to calculate, plan, control. Some of those do jump into other types of apps. But primarily that's what I'm thinking of when it's a functional app. It's not a planetarium app used to find things. It's used to, prep or help find some kind of information for you. And there could be a wide range of functions on these apps. It just depends on what exactly you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. But there's all kinds of them out there. One I just want to mention, I'm going to mention one here in a minute, because I use it all the time and I've completely spaced out because it's one that I use so often that's not for astronomy that I completely spaced over it. So I'll jump into there in a second. The first one, of course, is Scope Wizard. It is clearly the best app ever. Of course, it's ours. But if you don't have this, we spent a lot of time making this happen. This is the calculator you guys saw me pop up and do all kinds of calculations on, like magnification and scope specifications and all kinds of stuff. So we got together with some friends of ours and we made an app out of it. And this is available on Android and iOS. It is free, so you can go down and download that right now. But it does a lot of things. You can calculate magnifications, telescope limits. What I mean by telescope limits is like limiting magnitude, resolution, stuff like that. There are things you can play with. There's all kinds of calculators, and we plan to add more to it as we go on. Speed differences, which I find very helpful being an astrophotographer. What I mean by speed difference, which you can see right there, I wish there's probably a way to do it. I wish there was a way to hook up your device and show these live, but I didn't know how to do that at the moment, so sorry. Maybe in the future we'll do one. Speed difference is really kind of a neat calculator because a lot of us who are doing astrophotography, maybe you're looking at getting a reducer or something like that. And it's like, oh, it drops it to f5.4 or it drops it to f6.3, common reducers that are available. And what does that actually give me? You know, percentage, you know, times, you know, whatever it is. What is that actually going to give me? I can actually go ahead and do that right now, but I find that this calculator is something that I use a lot more frequently than I thought. So, like, let's say, just because I know my friends from Starizona are probably watching. Hi, Steve, and Scott, and everyone down there. Let me just do this. So, let's say you have a hyperstar, and your Schmidt-Cassegrain is f10. And let's say you get one of the new fancy, you know, Hyperstar 4s. They're like f1.9 is what that brings it down. So by doing that, I don't know if we can even see this. Sorry, I got too many cameras there. Nope, it's not going to. Anyway, it's not going to let me do it. We can put the larger focal ratio, which would be f10, versus the smaller one, which would be f1.9. And then that through the calculator, it will tell you how many times faster your exposure is going to be. The slower versus the shorter. So if we have a hyperstar and you're using an 11-inch hyperstar and the new one's f1.9, your photographic speed increases 27.7 times. So almost 28 times faster than f10. So basically what that means is if you take a 1-minute image using your hyperstar, it would equate to a 28-minute image at f10. Wait, I might have flipped that around. Anyway, that's how you kind of figure that out. But there's all kinds of stuff in Scope Wizard. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry, guys. So, but there's all kinds of little tools in here that I basically built this calculator in Excel when I was doing tech support for Skywatcher, and basically all these things were things that would come up with customers on the phone. Like, oh, I'm getting a Quattro Newtonian. What's the difference between that and my refractor? You know, people would want to know all that kind of stuff. Light grass comparisons. Like, what's the difference between, you know, the 16-inch versus the 10-inch? You know, stuff like that, where it's actually going to give you, like, real data that is helpful to make decisions on. And even in the field, that can be helpful. So I had this in Excel for a long time. And then our buddy Richard Wright, who we're going to have on in a few weeks, actually came in and built it for us there. So thanks a lot, Richard. And now it's a pocket-sized calculator that you can take. And we do plan on expanding it in the future. But there's all kinds of cool little calculations that I think a lot of us never knew we would need. But they are quite helpful to have on hand if you do. Now there's a question: is Scope Wizard available on Google Play Store for Android, or I need to download it? It should be on the Google Play Store. So give that a, let me double check. Is it one word or two? Scope Wizard is one word. So try looking that up on the Google Play Store. I have an iPhone, so I don't know how it shows up on the Android, the Google Play Store, but it should be there. It is available. It is free. So that's Scope Wizard. That's our app. Yay us. So that's that. Hopefully go download it. You'll probably find that you end up using it more than you would think because of these little calculations. They're kind of fun to play with. This is one of the apps I was kind of talking about earlier. It's not really an astronomy app, but I use it all the time. It's a GPS locator app, and it gives you your location in the correct format. not the decimal formats. It gives you degrees, minutes, and seconds, which is usually what you need for entering your information into like a hand controller if you don't have a GPS unit. So I use this app all the time when I'm setting up a go-to mount, because I don't have a GPS unit on any of the mounts that I have. So rather than go buy one for every single one, and they do get kind of spendy at times, especially if you need multiples, or maybe you just don't want to buy it. I find that these GPS locators are very, very helpful, because they're usually a free app. So download it, gives you your location from your phone or your device's position. It makes it really nice and convenient to set up a go-to mount rather than having to spend $100, $150, $200 on a GPS unit just to get that information. I just use my phone. It already has the GPS built in. Pop it in the controller and done. And I'm sure there are various versions of this app out there, and there are some apps that we're going to talk about moving forward that have this function inside of it that are probably a little bit more situated for astronomy. They give you more information and stuff like that. But yeah, so there are various apps that will give you the GPS location. I usually recommend this all the time because I don't really want to go out and buy an extra GPS, unit for a mount. I just want to put the information in. It takes 10 seconds to do it. I already have a device that does it in my pocket, so I just take that, type the information in, and done. Really quick and convenient. Now, while we're on this kind of stuff right here, there is another app that I should have brought up, and it's buried somewhere in my phone. There it is. A compass app. I use this thing all the time for polar aligning, and I don't know why I didn't put it in here. This also gives GPS location, so I'm not going to show you, or because I don't want you to know exactly where I'm at. Sorry. But that's another thing that I highly recommend, is a nice compass app, because I find that's very helpful for getting, you got to get your mount north. So I use that rather than dragging a compass out. I'll just use my phone. It's really convenient to have everything all in one little device. But that's an app that I use all the time as well, as a compass app. I think it's standard on the iPhones. But there are various versions out there. But I should have put that in there because it's very similar to the GPS locator apps, where it's not really astronomy, but it does provide a very helpful function to what you might be looking to do with your setups. All right. Another app that I use all the time is PolarScope Align. I have PolarScope Align and PolarScope Align Pro. I don't know what the difference is. I guess maybe ads. I never had a problem with ads on the regular one, if there are any, but yeah, I use Pro. I didn't really know anything else about that. So PolarScope Align Pro, every single person that calls in for something on their Skywatcher PolarScope always gets upset that we don't orient the PolarScope reticle, to the word 0's on top, 6's on bottom, 3, 9. Quite honestly, the numbers don't matter. Just rotate your polar axis to where one line's vertical, one line's horizontal, giving you 4 even quadrants: upper left, upper right, bottom left. So go ahead and just do that, and then open up the PolarScope app, and it will show you exactly which quadrant and which position Polaris needs to be in. Just ignore the numbers. They don't make any difference to the mount. We just need to get Polaris in the correct position on the reticle. So numbers don't matter. Just use that. But PolarScope Align Pro is really nice for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it does give you your GPS location, so we can check that box out. It generally gives you the time in military time or 24-hour format, so a lot of hand controllers accept that, so that's another box it checks off. It also gives you your current location's time zone, so you can put that in the hand controller. It really helps you, especially if you're coming to a Skywatcher mount. This app right here really gives you most of the information that you're going to need to plug into the hand controller anyway. So that's really helpful. And then it also gives you where Polaris needs to be. But another reason I like this one here is that there are multiple reticles available in this app. There's Astrophysics, there's Los Mondi, there's Ioptron, Takahashi, pretty much anyone that makes a mount. The developers of this app have gone in and implemented that. So you can change this. There's ours right there. You can easily go in for almost any mount that you want and change the reticle to whatever it is. And it makes it really easy to polar align your mount. You just hit this little gear right here. Sorry, gear is right here. And you're able to go in and switch it to whatever it is that you want. So it's very helpful, I find, for polar alignment. I recommend it to everybody that I talk to, and it really just makes things so much easier with the polar clock right there. Like I said, it also has GPS location, which is helpful if you're trying to implement that information into your mount. And that's kind of helpful. There's also a variety of calculators available. I don't know if that's new. It might be new for Pro. I'm not sure. I don't keep up with it that much. But it has a variety of calculators in it now for all kinds of stuff. I was really kind of surprised how many things are packed in there. Oh, I thought there was another slide there. There is. I swore there was another slide in here. They do have a daytime polar alignment on this assist as well, which is really interesting if you can't see like Polaris. There's a method in here. I haven't messed with it, but there is a daytime or not being able to see Polaris routine in here that will help you do that. So if you have that issue, this might be something to check out as well. I haven't messed with it personally, but I know it's in there. So there's some cool features in there. Let's see. Question here. Is it better to calibrate the compass of the smartphone before reliably using it? I never calibrate mine. Well, yeah, I do. You have to do like this figure 8 thing to calibrate it. So it needs you to calibrate it regardless. So I do. I haven't done it in a while, and it seems to not need it very often. So, but yeah, the calibration thing isn't a big deal. Usually what I use the compass for is just to get me close to polar north, and then when it gets dark, I'll look through the polar scope and actually dial in Polaris at that point. But at least it gets me close at that point. So, but yeah, you do calibrate it. At least the one in the iPhone, you do calibrate it with this little calibration routine. Another one I have on my phone, I haven't used it in a while, but it's Dark Sky Meter. This one's kind of neat because you can actually use the camera on your phone to document the darkness levels of a site. There are sky quality meters, SQM, little box, you hold them up, hold this button, and it, records that information. But they're kind of specialty to just that use. Like if you are going to be out measuring darknesses, having your own little SQM, they're not that expensive. They're like 100 and change or something, at least the last time I looked. They're kind of cool to have. I never found that I really needed one, but this little phone app seems to do a pretty good job on it. I don't know how accurate it is compared to a true SQM meter, but it gets you in the ballpark. What's kind of cool about this is you can go around, you can take multiple shots from different locations, and it will document it, puts it on a map. So if you're going to different locations, maybe you want to save a spot that you normally go to, you can go out, take a SQM or a dark sky meter reading out there with your camera phone. It'll record it, and they'll put it on your map about where you've gone and where you've recorded and what the darkness level was for that location. This can be kind of a fun project if you're trying to track like light pollution changes or effects on the night sky from certain location. It actually is going to give you some kind of number that you can actually record and document things. So it could be kind of an interesting thing, kind of a fun thing, especially if you go to like multiple sites. It might be interesting to like record around your local locations to see how light pollution varies from location to location. Of course, you could do that with an SQM meter, but then you have to like physically document it. Where the app here, it's got the camera, and then the GPS tag, and then it also has the SQM reading on top of it. So it's taking all that data and implementing it into one convenient little app, and then you can always go back and check it out what it was on that day at that location. So that's kind of a cool one. I have it on the iPhone. I don't know if it's on Android. You'd have to check, but it's called Dark Sky Meter. So Gas Giants. This is actually made by Software Bisque, same ones that make the Paramount and SkyX and stuff like that. This is kind of a neat app because it shows the locations of the moons for the gas giants. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, if you're not familiar what the gas giants are. Maybe you're new. But what's kind of neat about this is it's good for transit. So you can take this little slider bar down here, and you can actually slide it around. It'll show you the positions of the moons, and if there's any transits. If there are a transit, it will actually label the moons in white. If it's being eclipsed, it's in red, and if it's eclipsing, or if it's eclipsed, it's blue. Eclipsing's in red. But if you drag this slider there, it actually changes the time and the position of the planet and shows you what moon is where. And it will label it if it's going there. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this one. Again, it's from Software Bisque. I find this is really nice for imaging or visual. Maybe you're out, you're trying to plan for a transit so you can capture it either imaging, or you're going to go out and do that visually. It's kind of a fun one to plan for. There's a couple apps we're going to talk about that do that as well. And then, of course, like I said before, you can actually adjust the time and the slide down there to get that in position. I don't remember if this costs anything. I've had it for a while. You'd have to go on the apps. I did not look up if one's Android, one's iOS. I wasn't able to reference all of those. Again, I'm talking from an iPhone perspective and iOS for all this, but I'm sure most of these are supported on both platforms. If they're not, I'm sorry. There are a lot of apps out there that do similar things. So if there's not something that this app is, I'm sure there's something very similar for your device. Jupiter moons. This is from Sky and Telescope. It's very similar to gas giants, but this one is specific for Jupiter. So you can adjust the time. This one's kind of cool because it actually has events. So if there's upcoming events, it will actually list it in its own little tab, which is kind of a nice thing, which I think is really a good one. Great for planning, observing outings, especially if you're doing Jupiter. I'm talking to you, Christopher Go, Mr. Jupiter. So, but yeah, this is a good one if Jupiter's coming up. If you want to start planning some observing time of when the red spot might be visible, when there's going to be a shadow transit or multiple transits, this is a good one to use to plan for it. This does have a fee to it. I think it's like $3, I think. I'm not sure. But it's right in there. It's not too expensive. Of course, we can't leave out Saturn. So there is a version of Saturn. It's called Saturn's Moons. Does exactly the same thing. You can see all the moons there. You can adjust everything and all that. It doesn't look to be an events one for this one. But there is all kinds of stuff on this one, just like the Jupiter moons. They are individual apps from what I understand, so you'd have to buy them both individually. I think they're $2.99, so you're only looking at like $6 for the two of them if you want. But that's their kind of a cool app. That's from Sky and Telescope, so thanks for them to making all that there. But that is Jupiter moons and Saturn moons. Those are the name of the apps, and they basically let you see shadow transits and positions and cloud bands and ring positions as well. So something kind of cool. All right. So this one is called SETS. If you're actually looking for it, it's Solar Eclipse Timer. This thing is an absolute godsend if you are doing total eclipse photography. I have not used this since 2017. I would have not been able to achieve near the accuracy of images I was able to do without this app. So 2024 is coming up. We've got a big eclipse coming up in 2020. Maybe you're traveling for an eclipse sooner. You need to get this app. If you are going to shoot a total solar eclipse accurately and you want to get the diamond ring, you want to get Bailey's beads, you want to get your filter on in time before you melt your sensor, you want to shoot totality, this app is so helpful, especially as a person who originally never shot a total solar eclipse. I kind of knew what I had to do, but it was all a matter of, seconds, especially when you're coming in and out of totality. You really got to pay attention, because if you're trying to get that like Bailey's beads shot or a diamond ring shot when totality is happening, you have very little time to get the shot and get the filter back on, or pull the filter off and get the shot, because you don't want to damage the equipment on the back of the optics, whether it's a lens or a telescope or whatever. But it's all about time. So what this app does is it finds your location and can figure out exact times of the eclipse timeline. So it tells you when first contact is, second contact, third contact, Bailey's beads, diamond ring, and it's calling them out in an audible countdown for everything. So I had this running pretty much the entire time for the eclipse, because it made it so easy for me to just know, okay, now's the time to take the filter off. Now's the time to take the filter off. So having used this in 2017, I cannot recommend it enough for anyone who's going to be shooting 2024. I don't know if it does other eclipses, like solar eclipses, like partials or annulars, like we have in 2023. Next year we have an eclipse in October. I don't know if it does that. I'd have to play with it. I'd be surprised if it didn't, but it's something to mess around with. But if you are going to go shoot a solar eclipse, please, please, please go get this app. I don't even remember if it costs anything, but if it does, it was worth it. Especially if you have no idea what you're doing. It really allows you to just be like bang, 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 bang. You're on point, on time, all the time. Is probably one of my most recommended apps for you to get. Like I said, especially if you don't know what you're doing for the first time, especially if you're shooting like totality, that filter has to come off, and that's all about timing, and you don't want to damage your equipment. So this will give you the call outs that you have like 10 seconds left to put that on, or take it off, or whatever it may be. It gives you these call outs. You turn the volume up on your phone, and it's going to give you these countdowns. It is well worth whatever. If it is not free, is well worth. It's probably only a few dollars, but it's well worth it. Highly recommend it. And it's an absolute must for 2024 if you plan to shoot totality. So just get it. I cannot recommend it enough. But take some time to learn it. It does take a little bit of understanding of how to, but they do a very nice job on how to make it work. I've seen a lot of eclipse photographers use this and swear by it. And now I can get behind that too. After 2017, I can definitely tell you this app is one of, if not anything, this is the most important app in this episode if you're going to do 2024 photography eclipse photography. So that's a solar eclipse timer is what that's called. Now, because it is our webcast and we can talk about whatever we want, we're going to talk about the Star Adventurer console. It's also called the Star Adventurer mini console, or SAM. It's kind of expanded now because of the 2i. But the Star Adventurer console is a free app. It's what you use to control our Star Adventurer minis and the Star Adventurer 2i's. Those are the only mounts this app works for. You can do multiple functions and controls. You can do astrophotography mode, which is basic tracking. So if you want to set up your sequence, you can do that. You can do astro time lapse. There's all kinds of really interesting time lapses you can do in there. And then, of course, if you have your camera paired to the Star Adventure, it will also trigger the shutter for you as well. So you can kind of just walk away and let the mount do its thing. I will let you know that in astrophotography mode, whatever you program into that portion of the app, and when you hit run, it applies that to the dial. So whatever settings those are now in the dial. So if you like those settings, you can just rotate it to star mode or whatever mode you want, but it will apply that. We have a whole episode on the 2i that kind of explains that in more detail. So I would go back and watch that if you want to know more about that. We do have our own polar clock utility as well. You can see it's right there. So you can do polar alignment with that. But this is basically the app that you're going to need if you're buying a Star Adventure Mini or a 2i. This is the app that you use to control those mounts and the sequences and the settings and all kinds of that customization that those are able to do. So that is for the Star Adventures, Star Adventure console app that is available on Android and iOS, and it is free. So that is our own app. Okay, Photo Pills. Photo Pills, I thought I had this app, but I don't. Or I might have. I'll have to go back and find it. Photo Pills is a really unique app, and I've seen a lot of really serious nightscape photographers swear by it. Photo Pills is kind of a planning app, if you will. It's going to show you where the Milky Way is going to be. You can plan where the moonrise is going to be. Sunset, whatever is going on. It really is a tool that lets you set up for some really unique shots. So if you're trying to get like the moon rising behind some kind of target and you want to know where it is, maybe there's a landscape you're trying to get the Milky Way in front of and you want to compose it, Photo Pills is the app for that. This one screenshot does nothing in comparison to what this app does. It is a little spendy as far as apps go. It's about $11 for Photo Pills. Highly worth it, especially if you're a nightscape photographer, because you can use these augmented realities capability that's in there, and you can really plan pretty accurately about, you know, how this will look in front of this, and, you know, where the Milky Way will be at this time. And with the augmented reality in your camera, you can be like, okay, we're out at this rockscape, or we're out at a forest or a lake, and I want to know where the Milky Way is going to be at what time so I can get this shot. This app will let you do that, amongst many, many other things. But it can also help with exposure, locations, planning. It's very, very helpful to do all of that. I highly recommend taking a look at that, and it's so worth all of that. So definitely worth getting into that that app. Like I said, it's about $11, so it's a little bit more expensive than most of these apps, but if you're a nightscape photographer and you're trying to do Milky Way stuff, this app is really what you should be getting to do that. It would really make your workflow a lot easier, because you can really plan a lot more efficiently when you're going out to a site to do that. So Photo Pills is an amazing app. Like I said, they have a very nice website that actually explains all of the capabilities, but it's a very, very powerful tool. And if you are a nightscape photographer, it is highly recommended to get that app, because it can really help you plan everything. Hold on just a sec. There we go. All right, so that's Photo Pills. Definitely worth getting. I need to probably go get it. I swear I had it, but, you know. Our other app here is SynScan Pro. SynScan Pro, of course, is Skywatcher's app. If you are running a Wi-Fi device, AZGTI, AZGTIE, one of our FlexTube Dobs has the built-in Wi-Fi, the new Star Adventure GTI. If you ask me again about when Star Adventure GTIs are going to show up, let me just address this really quick. The first shipment of Star Adventure GTIs for the United States and Canada is currently on the water as we speak, and should be here by the end of the month. It's July. A very small shipment will show up. Some of you who pre-ordered it will probably get them. And then in August, we have a much larger shipment coming in. So a lot of you who have pre-ordered them here in the US and Canada will probably be seeing them in the next couple months. Some of you might be seeing them in the next 6 to 8 weeks ish. So it's getting close for some of you. But that's just so you guys know. But yeah, the SynScan Pro, the Wi-Fi mounts. This is the app that controls all of that. Even if you have the Wi-Fi adapter. So it's wireless control. Can do alignment, location, various other controls. It can be moved. You can move control over to popular planetarium apps once you've done the alignment, which we'll get into a little bit later. But that's something that you can check out there. But if you're going to get any one of our wireless Wi-Fi based mounts, not the Star Adventure 2i or the Mini, those use their own thing, but any of our go-to Wi-Fi systems, please get SynScan Pro. It has everything you would ever need, and you can route control to Luminos or SkySafari, which are two very popular planetarium apps that are available there. So, yeah, so there's that. It's free as well. It's on Android and iOS. So, and it's on Windows. So we did a whole video on this a few weeks ago about that. So, if you need a deep dive into it, we'll do that. So, weather apps. So we're done with like the functional apps. There's probably a better name for it, but I couldn't figure it out. Weather apps, I figured should be in its own section. Some of you have already brought a lot of this up already, but the one I use the most, at least I like to, it's called MyRadar. The reason I like MyRadar is it shows a wide variety of weather systems, and it also animates them. So it shows lightning strikes and severity of the storms, and all kinds of things in it. I think there's a free version of it, and then there's like a pro version that doesn't have apps or doesn't have ads and all that kind of stuff. I use this quite a lot, particularly here in Arizona when we're in the monsoon season and we might be doing a outreach event or something like that. It's a good way to keep track of what the cells are doing around you and how severe they might be. I really like using this all the time. It's just kind of fun to see. It's great for tracking various types of weather and lightning. It's also good for storm chasing if that's what you're into as well. But that's MyRadar. I like using this a lot. It's just one of the several weather apps we're going to talk about, but this one is pretty elaborate. It's not so much for astronomy, but it actually gives you a really nice visual about how cells and weather around you might be working. So the next one would be Astropheric. This was recommended to me by a friend of mine who's a professional astronomer. They use this a lot. If you're familiar with a website called Clear Sky Clock, Clear Sky Clock actually has their own app for Android, but they haven't done it for iOS, as far as I know. This is the most similar to that, and basically it gives you a timeline, and then the bluer the blocks are, the better. So it gives you cloud cover, transparency, all kinds of stuff there, and then of course temperature and when the sun rises and sets, stuff like that. There is some animation up here in the maps area, so that's kind of a nice feature. It's not as good as the MyRadar app. That's why I kind of like to use those in tandem. So that's something to take a look at. It gives you a nice easy readout for astronomy purposes, just using those blue bricks right there. So the bluer the color, the better. The brighter or wider the color, the worse it is outside. So it's a fun one to use. The percentages for cloud cover are also helpful. There's a bunch of stuff. Of course, we've got a big old ad down there. But there are other details that you can slide down and scroll down on it to actually see what's going on there. So, yeah, there's that as well. The other one is Good To Stargaze, which a lot of you have already brought up. This is a really nice app that does a bunch of stuff, actually. It's a very nice, clean layout. If you're a beginner, this is a very nice app to have because it's just going to tell you where things are. You don't have to look at any kind of, blue markers or something like that. It just gives you a very nice, clean layout. of, what we're looking at right now. You can see here in Arizona, it was very nice with a nice wind chill of 103 degrees. No precipitation. So the fun thing about here in Arizona, I tell people a lot, because we have no humidity here unless it just had a major storm. The level of humidity out here is to the point where if you ever try to fog the upper lens of an eyepiece or like a lens to wipe it off, you can hold a lens up to your, like, practically your mouth and blow on it, and the air and moisture will generally evaporate before it hits the glass. So there is no humidity here for the most part, which that's why all the big telescopes are here for the most part. But this is a very nice laid out app. It is free. I downloaded it and messed with it. But it's a great little app to have if you're a beginner and you just need something to give you a nice readout. This is a good one to have. I know it does some other stuff too. I just didn't have time to play around with it as much. But this is an excellent app for anybody who's looking for, just a good one to work with. All right. The light pollution app, or light pollution map, or LPM. This is kind of a fun one. It's not so much a weather app, but it's an interactive light pollution map. So if you wanted to see like where you are and where that lays out as far as how dark it is, this is a fully functional version of that. So it's got a very nice Google Earth overlay. You can ping different locations, but this is a good one to actually have around if you just want to talk about how the dark sites work. It's good for finding observing sites if you're looking for something to go out, and or maybe you're trying to find your current location and see if it's dark enough out there. It can also be used for aurora observing if you're in the northern hemisphere, or northern or southern latitudes technically. It'll tell you if there's any auroras going on right now. So that's a pretty good one to have and mess around with. Probably not one you would use all the time, but it does give you a nice layout of your particular site. Not so much a weather app, probably more of a functional app, but yeah, so there's that. Those are the weather apps that are basically, and I'm sure there's more that I've missed out, but for me, I usually use MyRadar because it gives me the whole radar look and shows me where cells are out there. And then I'll use Astropheric to actually get kind of what the weather's looking like. And if it looks questionable, like we were at the Grand Canyon Star Party a couple weeks ago, the weather was really weird up there because we're getting into monsoons. We were able to use MyRadar to track the cells and be like, okay, this cell will be out of the way by this time, so it's okay to set up. And then we would use Astropheric to see when the clearing would actually occur. So those are the two apps I like to use in tandem with each other so I can actually see where things are going, as well as kind of get a time. Now, they're not always accurate, but it's helpful. So, all right, the big ones, planetarium apps. I'm pretty sure every single one of us has one of these at somewhere on their phone. There is a few of them out there. I didn't list all of them, just the ones that I have on my phone and know the most about. The first one is Luminos. Luminos, all these are going to be interactive planetarium apps. You can move it around. The graphics are really nice. This was the first app to really work as a planetarium app for the SynScan Pro and Wi-Fi mounts for Skywatcher. They kind of were the first ones to crack that code to have a planetarium app that could actually function with the Skywatcher mount. So big shout out to Luminos and the team. It's very nicely laid out. It's got nice graphics. You can find all kinds of things in it. Field of view graphics for eyepieces and scopes and cameras. So if you're trying to frame something up, that's a very nice way to do it. You can adjust times, so you can figure out what's going to be up at certain times. But Luminos is a very, very nice app that's available out there. I don't remember if it costs. I think it has a small fee to it, but I don't remember. SkyGuide. SkyGuide is one of those apps that you just hold up to the nighttime sky. It's not as elaborate as Luminos is. It's really just more of an interactive, move your way around the sky, find some constellations and cool things. and you can search. But it's a fun one, especially if you're a beginner or you just kind of want to figure out what star is. Sky Guide's very nice. The graphics on this are actually I think one of my favorite, because they're not these oddly animated looking one. There's something very elegant about the graphics on this app. That's all I can say about it. But it's very nice. It's very clean looking. So Sky Guide is very nice. It is on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android or not, but very nice laid out, very clean app. So that's just something that you can use to kind of peruse the nighttime sky at that point. StarWalk 2. I didn't put StarWalk in here because StarWalk has basically gotten around for a long time. I've seen people at my events use it all the time. StarWalk 2 is just the evolution of that. You can just hold it up to the nighttime sky. The graphics are very nice. On this one, I like also that it shows where meteor showers are going to be with little shooting stars, and there's some comets listed and things like that. So you can use it for more advanced targets. It's got a search function like most of them do. So if you're trying to find a different object in the nighttime sky, you can actually use it and it shows you where to go with it. But that's StarWalk 2. StarWalk is still a very viable app. It's still available out there. This is just the second generation of it. I'm not sure which one I like better, actually. I still tend to end up just using StarWalk because it's the first one that's on my phone. But it does have some various features that are not that have been added to StarWalk 2. So another app out there is Orbitrack. Someone mentioned ISS Spotter. There's a lot of these out there. ISS Spotter is a good app to show you when you're going to have a flyby for the International Space Station. Orbitrack is kind of a level up on that because it shows a lot of different satellites. This is kind of a spin-off of the SkySafari branch. So it's made by the same team, but it's more specialized to satellites. So I've used this one a lot at events where if we see a satellite flying by and we're pointing it out to the public, we can open up the app, figure out which one it is, and it actually gives you a nice little layout of, what it is, when did it launch, is it active, is it a rocket booster, whatever it is. It kind of gives you some cool information to provide to people there as well. I really like using it for outreach events. And showing stuff, or you can just figure out what just ruined your image and flew through your shot. So there are various versions of these apps out there if you're looking to track satellites. There are some other apps we're going to talk about that have this already in them, but Orbitrack is one of them that is available. I think this one, last I checked, was only on iOS, but it might have changed because I got this a couple of years ago, so it might have changed. Let's see. I believe it will be better to wipe off any dust/grease over the smartphone camera lens shield before using a sky quality meter. Yeah, I would probably make sure the lenses on your camera phone are clean before using a sky quality meter app because it might diffuse some of the light. So, StarWalk. Someone was mentioning StarWalk does give you notifications for the ISS and Hubble and all kinds of stuff. My phone goes off all the time. Should probably delete one of them because I get it from StarWalk and StarWalk 2, and I don't need the same notification all the time. StarSense Explorer. This is from Celestron. This is another kind of spin-off from the SkySafari branch. If you've never used one of Celestron's StarSense Explorer telescopes, let me tell you right now, they're some of the best beginner telescopes available. And not even so much the telescope itself. The telescopes are nice, but obviously they have to be maintained on a budget-friendly level. But what's done with the app in your smartphone when paired with one of these telescopes is quite impressive. They usually have like a little mount somewhere, a little phone mount that you put your phone in. Open up the app, and there's a mirror. So the light from the sky bounces off the mirror up into your camera phone, and it plate solves and allows you to figure out where certain things are in the nighttime sky. I got to play with one of the... I technically own one. It's still on loan to someone. I gave it to them before COVID, so it's floating around somewhere. if you're a beginner, the StarSense Explorer telescopes, quite frankly, are awesome. This app makes it so nice to get to know the nighttime sky, and you already have it in your pocket. I don't think the app costs anything, but in order to activate it with whatever you have, there's a code card that comes with the telescope, and you plug that in and it activates everything. But this is really an impressive system. If you're just getting started, even if you've been doing it for a while, it's a very impressive system to get started doing that. But this app is really designed to only work with you can use it, but it's really only there for the StarSense Explorer setups. But it's a very impressive system when it's all put together. So there is that. All right. Last but not least, SkySafari. I'm sure many of us have or have used or currently use SkySafari. It is one of the most powerful apps out there. It comes in various versions. I don't know all the ones there. It used to be like amateur, I think, and like, or maybe it was just SkySafari. Then it was like Plus, and then there's Pro. I think Plus and Pro are the ones that you need if you want to actually control your telescopes. It has a wide selection of capabilities to control a telescope with Wi-Fi capability. It does require some kind of wireless connection, so you might have to look at whatever telescope you're using and how that actually integrates. But I always recommend going with the Pro version. The Pro version has the widest range of targets you can think of. I was looking up the new one they just released not too long ago, which is SkySafari 7. The Pro version has 100 million stars and 3 million galaxies in it, along with all kinds of weird stuff. A lot of the really obscure targets I like to go view and observe and image, like LDNs, LBN, Barnard, Palomar, just like really stupid, faint, weird targets. 9 times out of 10, SkySafari will have it in some way. Quasars, it's nuts how much stuff is packed in this app. I used to bring out books and print charts and all kinds of stuff. I don't do any of that anymore because I use SkySafari. So SkySafari is probably where the bar is set. It's a beautiful interface. The graphics on it are rival many, many more advanced, expensive softwares out there. You can customize things. You can build your own observing lists, catalogs. It has equipment field of view graphics you can set. I use this a lot if I'm planning a shot for a night. I'll find the target and kind of figure out where it's going to be. It really helps for planning and orientation. You can actually figure out when there's going to be transits on some of the planets and stuff like that. That's really helpful. You can set up all kinds of different observing targets. If you see my screenshot here, you see all these little green dots. I just have a lot of different settings. Like I have the Abell catalog highlighted because I really like Abell planetaries and nebulas. So I have a lot of things in there. But it is a humongous app if you're getting Pro. And it's probably the more expensive one out there. I've $25-$30 if you're getting the Pro version. It's way worth it though. But you will want to make sure that whatever device you're going to download it on has enough memory on it. Most of them should, unless you've got 47,000 pictures of your kids like me, or telescopes or whatever is on there. But make sure you've got room because it's a couple gigs for this app. But I would really recommend looking at the Pro version because you will never have to take a star chart out with you again because it has everything in it. And if it doesn't have it, it's probably just under another name is what I found. But it's phenomenal. Our app, SynScan Pro, does now connect to it. So any of our Wi-Fi devices, you would do an initial alignment in our app. And then once the mount is aligned and oriented, you can then move command over to SkySafari in the background. And then use SkySafari to point your Skywatcher wireless device. But SkySafari is really where the bar is set. I think many of us realize that. Probably a lot of us have it already. But it's a well worth investment if you're going to do it. But SkySafari is probably the best, in my opinion, when it comes to the planetarium apps out there. Well, guys, that's pretty much it. We actually did really good on time. I was a little worried about this episode that we would blow through it really quick, but we landed it perfectly. So if you like what you see here, please go ahead and subscribe, leave a like. If you have an app that you might recommend and we didn't talk about, put it in the comments so people in the future can see what's out there and available. So, but yeah, we appreciate you watching. This again was our app episode. Next week, if you want to join us, we're going to introduce our Quattro 150, our new baby Quattro. It's actually out. They're already shipping if you want to get one. But we're going to do a whole video about the little telescope. And this is a really neat little tube. And it has a lot of unique little features on it as well. So join us next week. We're going to go into details about that. It'd be really cool to have you guys on, and we'll be talking about that next week. But thanks for hanging out with us this Friday. I appreciate it. Please have a safe weekend. Go out and do some observing. Maybe look at the moon. And if you're here in the Southwest, don't burn up. So other than that, thank you all for watching, and have a safe weekend. Clear skies, and we will see you guys next Friday. Take care. Bye.